Hey class, how you guys doing? What this is going to be hopefully a consistent thing where I will, following a deadline for videos, I will be doing a kind of discussion debrief where I'll walk us through each of those four questions we put forwards and kind of talk it out a little bit, and hopefully I can highlight some of the things you guys said. Those of you who have responded, you did a great job responding. I will highlight right now that this is a class of 13 people. Out of those 13 people, six of us turned things in on time. That sucks. I mean, thank you so much for those of you who have done your work. I love it. I appreciate it. But if we have not, we're gonna fall behind. Okay, so please make sure these first halves of the discussions are due on Wednesday at midnight. You can't delay that. I even talked to some of you guys yesterday about getting your stuff turned in, and you still didn't do it. That's troublesome to me. Please do this so I don't have to do anything more stringent. All right. So let's work through this real quick. First of all, Telltale Heart. I mean, some of you have probably read it before, but what a crazy story. I love it. It's quick, it's poignant, it does what it needs to do. It doesn't waste any time doing it. And it kind of really helps set the tone for what we look at when we look at an American Gothic piece of literature, and it's quick to do so. Um, so thank you so much for those of you who read it. Let's talk about it a little bit. First question I asked you was that this text, like most of Poe's writings, is told from a first-person point of view. This perspective adds a number of complications to how we interpret the text. I wanted you to speak to me about the narrator of Telltale Heart, explaining whether or not he's reliable or unreliable, and how he's telling the truth or not the truth. And talk about how this type of narration impacts our understanding of the text. So, Elmer, you pointed out that it's told from the killer's point of view, which should make it sound legit and reliable because he's giving his true feelings. Um, However, I think some of us bring up that he's not necessarily the most trustworthy of people to listen to, right? Um, and he kind of tells us that at the beginning. Pamela, you highlighted that at the beginning of the text, he's talking about an illness, I'm totally sane, I'm good to go. Are you though? Is the question. I think we have it proved over the course of this thing. Um, Telling it from first person lets us get a better understanding of what's going on. But we do, thank you, Jeremy. It is a little bit more biased, right? We're only getting his perspective. Of course, he wants to convince us that I'm not crazy. What I did was totally sane. I was in control. I know what I'm doing. I did it. It was great. And the way he tells it is really interesting, right? Because he tells us, I was sane. I was totally in control. I know what I'm doing. But the things he's doing are not the actions of a sane person. We get at one point, he says, if still you think me mad, you will think so no longer when I describe the wise precautions I took for the concealment of the body. Bruh, you're telling us that you're not mad, but then you're going to explain the smart way you disposed of the body that you murdered because you don't like the way the eye looked. And he disposes of it, of course, by chopping up the parts and burying them under the floorboards. But he doesn't leave a mess because he did it in a tub, right? Just because you do something terrible in a organized way doesn't make it less terrible. It's kind of what we get to play with here. And I think as the reader, we're supposed to kind of see that. We're supposed to be like, okay, this guy. You guys did a great job of talking about that. I really enjoyed seeing the back and forth you had with each other about the material. It was awesome. Question number 2. There's only one instance of true dialogue that occurs towards the end of the text. turn to the end myself. Everything else is internal monologue, right? What effect does that external communication have? That very end part is something we want to look at here. Question number two. Jeremy is coming from a first person point of view, so of course he kind of keeps it to himself. He doesn't have to talk about it. And it adds suspense. I agree. I like that. It's about isolation, right? And I think your conversation highlights this, that he isolates himself. He only acknowledges like there's the old man that he deals with the eye. And then there's the 3 police officers at the end. But he's really kind of on his own. He lets his own thoughts brew, and that kind of leads to the issues that he runs into, right? And Billy, you highlight that it's easier for us to access it at the end. Otherwise, it's all narration, which is pretty great. Very good job. So, question number 3, how does the story develop and maintain a feeling of tension? I really wanted to look at the structure of the text. It's short, right? Especially after you've read the next story we read. This is a short story. It's like 4 pages, if that. So it still has a lot of tension in it, and that's like from the starting line, there's tension, and it impacts the way we read it. What did we say? We're actually kind of told at the beginning what's going to happen too, aren't we? Like, by paragraph 2, he tells us like, I had this plan, I was going to do this thing, I just had to find the right time to do it. And so we know what's going to happen, and we're just waiting for it to happen. It's kind of like when you go see, I don't know about you guys, when I go see a movie, I watch trailers beforehand, and in the trailers you'll see something dramatic happening to a character, whether it's a horror movie or not. And you go and you watch the movie, and you're going, okay, cool, like there's tension. I want to see this happen. I know at one point this hammer gets broken, or I know at one point like this character dies, or we see them at the bottom of a cliff. I want to see that happen. Like, hurry up and get me there. And we see that building up. I think we get something similar in this story at the beginning. But we also get that tension of like, as you guys read it, as we're reading, he starts to lose control of his calm demeanor, right? At the beginning, he's like, well, actually, I take that back. In the beginning, he's still kind of rambling and like, true, very nervous, very dreadfully nervous I was, but why will you say I am mad, right? He's frantic and he's trying to tell a story, but as he tells the story, he gets more and more frantic. He starts repeating himself frequently. That repetition happens again and again. And he reiterates on himself, and it's almost sounds like he's trying to convince himself what he's feeling, right? No, I'm not nervous. It's not me. What I did was right. I did the right thing. Why would I be nervous? It's great. I did it. It was fine. I'm totally in control. Look how calm I am. Look how calm I am. You're like, you're not, no. It's really interesting. And I think bringing us back to that first question, it all ties into the way the narrator is telling the story. It's really interesting. Question 4 is not a great question, but we'll look at it. I asked you to talk about one of the characters in the story and how they're developed. I appreciate that those of you who answered it, Chloe, you tackled the old man instead of the narrator. Like, that was great. Because we don't know that much about him, except that he's got an eye. And it made the other guy uneasy. And through our lack of detail about the old man, except for the eye, we otherwise we found that like he was a totally like likable person. It emphasizes the insanity of our narrator, right? And like that's pretty interesting. Our narrator is wholly self-centered. We don't get anything about the other characters. We know the other 3 gentlemen look like police officers. And that the old man was nice but had a goofy eye. And And so you do a good job of highlighting that it lets us know his plot and his feelings and how he handles different situations through the way these other characters look, right? Or how they're not depicted. He even says he loves the old man, right? Samir highlights, like, he loved him. But that eye, I have to do something about that eye. Sure, whatever you say. I want to talk about this story more. It's an interesting story. What we'll end up doing, I think, especially with these first two stories, is we will talk back towards it as we're looking at other texts. So I might spend some time early next week talking a little bit more about Telltale Heart, just as kind of our anchor point here, because it's a great example of the genre. And we'll be able to make connections back to this as we move forward into next week and the week after that. If you have not responded to this, I need you to respond to this. It's better to do it late and get an 80% than not do it at all and get a 0%. That would suck. If you are friends with somebody in this class, please make sure they're logging into my Canvas course and doing their work. If this happens next week, we start to get in a bad spot and we have to start making phone calls and all that fun stuff, all right? So make sure they're not only accessing my Canvas, because I see people doing that, but they are engaging with the material. You've got to do the work. It won't, ask your friends, it won't take you that long, but you've got to do it. I'm going to do another one of these videos. I'm going to do it for Fall of the House of Usher. You can check that out as well. With these videos, you don't have to respond to them or anything. All you've got to do is have clicked on it to look at it. That's all I need. And I'm not going to time gate these so that if you don't get to looking at it till next week, that's fine. They are here for us to engage with, all right? I'm still playing with the way these different recording formats work and what works best. Please let me know if I can do anything better. If you feel like, hey, it would be really helpful if you did this, this, or this. If I didn't highlight what you said, doesn't mean I didn't read it. You all did a great job. Thank you so much for engaging with this text and engaging in discussion. And I can't wait to see the questions you ask each other and the way you respond to those questions. Make sure you do that. It's the other discussion board on this text. All right. Great job, and I will talk to you all soon.